Welcome to History Unveiled. Today we're delving into one of the world's most secretive occult orders, the Ordo Templi Orientis, better known as O.T.O. In this video, we will trace its origins in fin de siècle Central Europe, explore the mysterious role played by key figures like Kellner, Theodor and Aleister Crowley, and examine how the order transformed over the 20th century into a modern global organization steeped in symbolism, ritual, and the philosophy of Thelema. Stay with us as we reveal the hidden history, the rituals, the internal struggles, and the enigmatic beliefs that continue to intrigue occultists and historians alike. The story of the Ordo Templi Orientis begins in Central Europe during the final years of the 19th century. In 1895, a wealthy Austrian industrialist named Kellner, an avid student of esoteric traditions and Freemasonry, sought to create an Academia Masonica, a school where high-degree Masonic rites and hidden knowledge could be studied and imparted. Kellner believed he had discovered the key to unlock the elaborate symbolism of the Freemasons as well as the mysteries of nature itself. His ambition was to amalgamate disparate strands of esoteric wisdom into one cohesive system. Kellner's efforts soon brought him into contact with fellow occultists. Working alongside him were figures such as Franz Hartmann, Heinrich Klein, and most notably, Theodor. Royce would eventually become a pivotal leader for the organization. Together, these early founders sought to mold an order that not only mirrored the structure of European Freemasonry, but also embraced a wider range of occult practices. Originally, the emerging order was modeled on the tenets of regular Masonry. In its first incarnation, only those who were already Freemasons could join. However, Kellner's vision extended beyond the rigid confines of traditional Masonry. In his mind, the order should be a repository for the secret knowledge hidden in Masonic symbolism, and in nature itself. By 1902, Royce, Hartmann, and Klein had taken significant steps. They negotiated with English Freemason John Yarker to obtain the right to perform high-degree Masonic rituals, including the controversial rites of Memphis Misraim, which, although irregular, formed a core part of the new order's teachings. Though nothing verifiable existed in the public record until 1904, the seeds were planted for an organization that would soon become internationally renowned. Kellner's untimely death in 1905 left Royce to consolidate leadership. Royce began organizing lodges or cells in various countries, including France, Denmark, Switzerland, and the United States. However, early on, the new order was fraught with challenges. Criticism of the irregular Masonic practices, and even scandal regarding the conduct of certain initiations, set against the backdrop of a time when secret societies were viewed with suspicion. Royce's publications, notably his journal The Oriflamme, which debuted in 1902, served as a voice for the new order, and hinted at its esoteric ambitions. Royce's writings would later evolve, and be interwoven with the innovations brought in by one of the most notorious figures in occult history, Aleister Crowley. It wasn't long before Theodor encountered a man who would irrevocably change the course of the O.T.O. Aleister Crowley. Known as the Beast, and later heralded as the prophet of a new spiritual aeon, Crowley had already built a reputation as an innovator and provocateur in occult circles. Crowley was introduced to the O.T.O. in the early 1910s. Initially, he was admitted into the first 3 degrees of the order, under its then Masonic influence system. However, within only a few years, Crowley's influence would lead to radical changes in the inner workings and philosophy of the organization. By 1912, he was appointed National Grand Master General for Great Britain and Ireland, a post that gave him control of the British section, known as the Mysteria Mystica Maxima, or the abbreviated M. Therefore. Crowley's reach extended beyond administrative control. Already an accomplished occultist, he began revising the rituals. His vision of occult practice was informed by his own mystical revelations, and, most importantly, by the emerging new doctrine of Thelema, a spiritual philosophy for the modern age. In 1904, while in Cairo with his wife Rose, Crowley experienced what he described as a profound revelation. Over a series of days, an otherworldly voice, identifying itself as Aiwas, the minister of the Egyptian deity Horpa-Krat, dictated what would later become Liber Alvel Legis, or the Book of the Law. This text proclaimed that humanity was entering a new eon, known as the Eon of Horus, and encapsulated the core tenet, "Do what thou wilt, shall be the whole of the law." Crowley argued that from this point on, the individual's true will, its unique destiny, was paramount. Crowley's integration of Thelema into the O.T.O. had dramatic consequences. He oversaw the reorganization of rituals, shedding many of the traditional Masonic symbols and replacing them with new, Thelemic ones. By 1915, the revised rituals were in use, and they emphasized the pursuit of one's true will as the ultimate spiritual goal. This marked a turning point. The O.T.O. was no longer merely an offshoot of Masonic and Rosicrucian traditions, but had become a vehicle for Crowley's revolutionary ideas. Yet this transformation was not without controversy. Within the order, tensions simmered as Royce and Crowley's differing visions collided. Royce, whose background was steeped in a more traditional esoteric framework, soon found himself at odds with Crowley's radical reinterpretation of occult symbolism and the integration of sex magic into the higher degrees. In fact, disputes began to lead to acrimonious exchanges as early as 1921, with Crowley eventually proclaiming himself the outer head of the order, an act that many, including Royce's supporters, viewed as controversial. Crowley's takeover cemented his legacy within the O.T.O. His tenure, from his official ascendancy in 1925 until his death in 1947, transformed the organization. Under his leadership, the order's rituals embraced the tenets of Thelema completely. The traditional Masonic motifs were mostly expunged in favor of a system where personal freedom and the discovery of one's divine purpose were key. His writings, including the Blue Equinox, served both as doctrinal texts and as manifestos for the new Aeon of Horus. Crowley's influence was felt not just in the revision of rituals but also in the very structure of the order. The original framework, divided into degrees resembling those of Freemasonry, was maintained, but its content was reinterpreted. The degrees, which now ranged from the initiation of the Minerval, 0 degrees, through to the outer head of the order at the 12th degree, were reorganized into 3 triads corresponding to different stages in one's journey of self-realization. The triad of the Man of the Earth emphasizes the early stages of personal development and spiritual awakening. The triad of the Lover introduces the transformative power of love and initiatory insight. The triad of the Hermit culminates in the achievement of mystic wisdom and the unveiling of hidden truths. This structure, which may sound familiar to those versed in esoteric traditions, was Crowley's way of guiding initiates through an allegorical journey towards self-realization and union with the divine principle of their true will. As the O.T.O. expanded under Crowley's influence, it spread its influence beyond Europe to America and eventually the world. However, the 20th century was not a time of uninterrupted esoteric exploration. World War I and World War II dramatically impacted the internal dynamics and external structure of the order. During World War I, many of the European lodges were disrupted by military conflict and government suspicion. In England, for example, police raids on occult gatherings forced the O.T.O. to operate covertly, with many records destroyed and ceremonies halted to avoid persecution. Crowley himself had to navigate these troubled times by shifting his base of operations. In 1914, he moved to the United States, where the environment was more permissive of his unorthodox practices. World War II would later pose an even graver threat. In Europe, the order's rituals and lodges were suppressed. The Nazi regime in particular was hostile toward occult organizations. Karl Germer, a key figure in the O.T.O. who had worked closely with Crowley in Germany, was imprisoned by the Gestapo. With the European branches effectively dismantled or forced underground, the only surviving and active body by the end of the war was Agape Lodge in California. Following Crowley's death in 1947, the leadership of the O.T.O. entered a period of crisis and confusion. With Crowley gone, the order split into factions. Karl Germer, who had been designated by Crowley as his successor before dying in 1962, did his best to continue the work. However, without Crowley's vibrant personality and constant reinvention, the order's activities dwindled. In the United States, Agape Lodge in California remained the primary, and for a time, the only active O.T.O. body. The succession issues that plagued the organization became one of its enduring controversies. After Germer's death, various groups claimed to be the legitimate inheritors of Crowley's O.T.O. Legal battles ensued over copyrights, trademarks, and the authority to use the O.T.O. name. Courts eventually ruled that the organization reconstituted by Grady McMurtry in 1979 was the legal continuation of Crowley's O.T.O., solidifying its claim as the rightful owner of the names, marks, and copyrights associated with the order. Reference: United States District Court case quoted in Wikipedia. The post-war era saw the O.T.O. in a state of dormancy and disunion, with the once energetic order reduced to a skeletal structure. It was not until the intervention of Grady McMurtry, a devoted occultist and former student of Crowley's, that the order began to experience a revival. In the late 1960s, McMurtry invoked letters of emergency authorization he had received from Crowley, proclaiming himself Caliph of the O.T.O. In 1970, he resumed initiations, determined to breathe new life into an organization that he believed was too valuable to fade into obscurity. McMurtry's efforts led to a formal reorganization. In 1979, he incorporated the O.T.O. as a religious organization under the laws of California. The new formation gained federal tax-exempt status in 1982 under IRS Code 501, C3. With these legal formalities in place, the revived O.T.O. slowly expanded its membership and geographic reach. Although its numbers remained modest compared to mainstream religions, the order began to attract a worldwide following interested in its syncretic blend of mysticism, ritual, and Thelema. Following McMurtry's death in 1985, the surviving members of the order's inner circle, the Sovereign Sanctuary, voted on a successor. They elected William Breeze, who now presides as Hymenaeus Beta, the current outer head of the order. Under Breeze's leadership, the O.T.O. has maintained its traditions and continued to offer initiations, hold public events such as the Gnostic Mass, and publish its literature, including occasional reprints of Crowley's works. Today, the O.T.O. exists as both an initiatory organization and a repository of Thelemic philosophy. It conducts public ritual celebrations, educational lectures, and artistic exhibitions that seek to integrate esoteric symbolism with modern expressions of spirituality. Despite its secretive origins, the order now also maintains an official website and publishes press releases, efforts that highlight its evolution from a clandestine fraternity into a legal, non-profit religious body recognized in several countries. At the heart of the O.T.O. lie the teachings of Thelema, a spiritual philosophy that Crowley famously encapsulated in two primary tenets: "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law," and "Love is the law, love under will." But what do these slogans really mean, and how do they inform the everyday practice and ceremonial life of the O.T.O.? Thelema posits that every individual has a true will, a unique divine purpose or destiny, that one must strive to discover and follow. For Crowley, adherence to one's true will was not just an abstract ideal, it was a practical method for attaining spiritual liberation and self-actualization. In the context of the O.T.O., Thelema informs all aspects of ritual and ethics. Initiates are encouraged to eschew societal convention and moral dogma in favor of personal discovery. At the same time, the order teaches that individual freedom must be exercised responsibly, so as not to infringe upon the freedom or well-being of others. The initiation system of the O.T.O. is both intricate and symbolic. The order is structured into a series of degrees, grouped into three triads that map the aspirant's spiritual evolution. The triad of the man of the earth includes 0 degrees, the Minerval, the initial stage where the candidate makes a formal commitment to the order; I degree, man and brother or woman and sister, an initiation akin to being reborn into the secret community; 2 degree, the Magician, where the initiate begins to learn symbolic and practical magic; 3 degree, Master Magician, a degree that signifies further understanding of occult mysteries; IV degree, Perfect Magician and Companion of the Holy Royal Arch of Enoch, or the Perfect Initiate, Prince of Jerusalem. This is where initiates are introduced to more advanced teachings, including the practice of sexual magic, a subject that has intrigued, and sometimes shocked, the public since Crowley's day. The Triad of the Lover. This set, comprising the V degree through 7 degrees, deals with themes of love, passion, and the deeper interpersonal dynamics that inform the quest for the true will. Initiates in these degrees learn rituals that use symbolism, drawn from both mysticism and sexual alchemy. The Triad of the Hermit, rounding out the system, the degrees of 8 degree to 12 degree focus on attaining mystical insight and the ultimate union with one's higher self. The highest degree, 12 degree, held by the outer head of the order, is reserved for the leader, whose role is as much about inspiration and guardianship of the order as it is about administration. In addition to these initiatory degrees, The O.T.O also encompasses an ecclesiastical arm, the Ecclesia Gnostica Catholica, EGC. The EGC is responsible for the performance of the Gnostic Mass, the central ritual of the order, which Crowley described as the central ceremony of our public and private celebrations. The Gnostic Mass is rich in symbolism, blending elements of ancient ritual with Crowley's Thelemic revelations, and has been performed not only in secret lodges, but also in public venues on special occasions. Crowley's emphasis on sexual magic is another distinctive, and often misunderstood, aspect of O.T.O practice. He believed that the creative and transformative energies unleashed during sexual rites could be harnessed to break down the barriers of the ego and reveal deeper truths about the self. Although his methods and explicit writings have drawn controversy over the decades, they also contributed significantly to the discourse on occultism and personal liberation in the modern era. While the rituals and esoteric practices can seem abstruse, the deeper message is simple: the search for truth, the exploration of one's inner self, and the realization that every human being possesses a spark of the divine. For initiates of the O.T.O, the degrees and rituals are not simply ceremonies. They are tools designed to align one with the cosmic forces that govern existence, enabling the realization of one's true will, and, ultimately, transformation into a higher, more divine state. Like many secretive organizations with long histories, the O.T.O has not been without its share of internal dissent and schisms. After Crowley's death in 1947, the question of succession led to a series of conflicts that would shape the order's destiny for decades. In the immediate aftermath, several branches claimed legitimacy. Karl Germer, who had been entrusted by Crowley and had maintained the order during the war, attempted to keep the O.T.O intact. However, his efforts were hindered by the loss of many European lodges and the very limited number of active initiates. After Germer's death in 1962, without naming a clear successor, the order splintered further. It wasn't until Grady McMurtry stepped forward that a semblance of unity was restored. McMurtry claimed authority based on the emergency letters he had received from Crowley, and began reinitiating members in the United States in the early 1970s. Under his guidance, the reformed O.T.O was officially incorporated in California, and its status as a religious non-profit entity was recognized by U.S. courts. Parallel to McMurtry's faction, other groups emerged that challenged his claim. Notably, the Typhonian Order, initially led by Kenneth Grant, claimed to represent the true spiritual descendants of Crowley's vision. Grant's faction adopted a more eclectic approach, blending Thelema with elements from extraterrestrial lore, Lovecraftian myth, and a darker, often provocative view of magic. His organization, which eventually rebranded as the Typhonian Order, eschewed many of the formal ritual structures of the traditional O.T.O, in favor of a more free-form, individualistic approach to esoteric exploration. These internal disputes led to legal battles over copyrights, trademarks, and the very name of the order. In a landmark case in the U.S., the courts ruled that the corporation established by Grady McMurtry in 1979 was the legitimate continuation of Crowley's O.T.O, and it was awarded exclusive rights over the order's insignia, publications, and intellectual property. Although splinter groups continue to exist and claim the true lineage of the O.T.O, from a legal standpoint, only one organization holds the rights to operate under the name. These legal battles and schisms are a testament to the enduring legacy and the magnetic allure of Crowley's vision. They highlight how a small, secret occult society could evolve into a complex modern organization, forever intertwined with controversies that fuel both public curiosity and scholarly debate. Today, the Ordo Templi Orientis exists as a legally incorporated religious organization, with thousands of initiates worldwide. Although its public profile is still relatively low compared to mainstream religions, the modern O.T.O actively promotes esoteric education, ritual practice, and the study of Thelema. Under the leadership of William Breeze, who now presides under the name Hymenaeus Beta, the O.T.O has organized itself into a multi-tiered structure. The international headquarters, often referred to as the Central Office, oversees the Order's activities globally. Local bodies are organized according to a structure that echoes the Order's initiatory system, with small groups known as camps and oases that have the capacity to perform initiations up to the lower degrees. and larger lodges that can confer the higher degrees and host regular public events, such as the Gnostic Mass. The O.T.O also maintains its ecclesiastical branch, the Ecclesia Golicia Catholica, which serves as the order's public face by performing rituals that blend ancient symbolism with modern Thelemic principles. The Gnostic Mass, a central ritual adapted and revised by Crowley, continues to be celebrated by members around the world, sometimes in dedicated temples, at private residences, or even in cultural spaces. In addition to ritual work, the modern O.T.O is active in publishing and educational outreach. It regularly issues newsletters and maintains an official website where prospective members and curious onlookers can learn about Thelema, its rituals, and the philosophical framework underpinning the order. Public lectures and occasional exhibitions on esotericism and occult art further connect the organization with a broader community interested in alternative spirituality. Despite its evolution into a recognized religious body, the O.T.O still retains an air of mystique. It continues to carefully control its initiatory traditions, ensuring that access to advanced teachings remains within the inner sanctum of the order. New initiates typically begin with an introduction to the order's symbolism, and gradually progress through stages of deeper spiritual training, always guided by a mentor who is an experienced practitioner. The O.T.O's global presence is also notable. Today, national Grand Lodges can be found not only in the United States, but also in countries across Europe, South America, and even parts of Asia. In some regions, local bodies have undergone a renaissance in recent years, bringing renewed interest in both Thelemic teachings and the tradition of esoteric initiatory practices. For example, in France, where Crowley himself once resided and wrote extensively, a number of newly formed lodges and camps indicate that interest in the occult and Thelema is very much alive. No discussion of the O.T.O is complete without a thorough exploration of its core doctrine. Thelema. Originating with Crowley's revelations in Cairo, Thelema encapsulates the idea that every individual has a divine purpose, called the true will, and that the highest spiritual accomplishment is to discover and align oneself with that will. The two most famous aphorisms of Thelema are, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will." What do these mean? At its simplest, the first aphorism encourages individuals to follow their innermost purpose, without being bound by conventional morality or external dictates. It is not a license for chaos or hedonism, but rather a call to self-discovery and personal responsibility. The second aphorism emphasizes that true freedom is inseparable from love, a harmonious balance between individual will and cosmic unity. Thelema teaches that through initiatory practices, including ceremonial ritual, meditation, and even controversially, the exploration of sexual energy, a practitioner may strip away the layers of ego and illusion that obscure their divine nature. In doing so, the individual moves closer to realizing the great work, the process of achieving enlightenment and communion with the universal self. Crowley and later leaders of the O.T.O maintained that these principles were not invented in modern times. Rather, they were a rediscovery or reinterpretation of ancient wisdom. They drew from Egyptian, Greek, and Eastern traditions, claiming that the symbols and rituals of the past could be reawakened to bring about a spiritual revolution in the modern world. The legacy of the O.T.O extends into modern occultism and alternative spirituality in many ways. Whether through the popularity of the Thoth tarot deck, which was developed with input from Crowley and illustrated by Lady Frieda Harris, or through the continuing academic and artistic interest in esoteric traditions, the influence of the O.T.O is undeniable. Even those who remain skeptical of occult claims must acknowledge that the order has had a lasting cultural impact, influencing literature, art, and even contemporary popular culture. The Ordo Templi Orientis has long been shrouded in controversy and public misunderstanding. Because of its secretive nature, its use of provocative symbolism, and its association with Aleister Crowley, a figure often described in sensational terms, the O.T.O has frequently been the subject of rumors and conspiracy theories. One of the most persistent myths is that the order endorses unspeakable practices or acts of human sacrifice. In reality, while the O.T.O does engage in rituals that use sexual symbolism and involve the harnessing of sexual energy for spiritual transformation, these practices are allegorical and ritualized rather than literal. Crowley's own writings emphasize that the goal is self-transformation and the discovery of one's true will, not the pursuit of debauchery. Unfortunately, media sensationalism throughout the 20th century helped cement an image of Crowley as the wickedest man alive, an image that, while partly based on his rebellious lifestyle, is largely exaggerated. Another source of confusion stems from the order's structure and its relationship with other esoteric organizations. Early on, the O.T.O was closely linked with Freemasonry and Rosicrucianism, but Crowley's reforms gradually shifted the focus to Thelema, leading to internal schisms and the emergence of splinter groups, such as the Typhonian Order and other offshoots. These groups sometimes present divergent interpretations of occult teachings, which can further muddy the waters for the uninitiated. Legally, the order has also been a battleground. The public legal victories in the United States that confirmed Grady McMurtry's faction as the legitimate heir to Crowley's O.T.O reinforced the notion that, beneath the layers of mystery and ritual, there is a real, functioning organization with documented history and structure. Despite the controversies, many serious scholars and practitioners of esoteric traditions view the O.T.O as an important contributor to modern Western occultism. It represents an attempt to synthesize ancient mystery traditions with modern individualistic spirituality, and it has played a key role in keeping alive the study of esotericism through the 20th century and into the digital age. From its mysterious inception in late 19th century Central Europe, through its radical transformation under Aleister Crowley, the Ordo Templi Orientis is a living, evolving institution. It has weathered wars, legal battles and internal disputes, yet it continues to operate as both a secret initiatory order and a public promulgator of Thelemic philosophy. Today, the O.T.O remains dedicated to guiding individuals on their spiritual journeys. Its elaborate system of initiations, the performance of ritual, and its ongoing commitment to the study of Thelema all serve as bridges between ancient wisdom and the challenges of modern life. For many members, the order is a community where intellectual rigor, mystical practice, and artistic expression come together in the shared quest for self-realization. Looking ahead, the future of the O.T.O appears as enigmatic as its past. While membership remains relatively exclusive, and esoteric knowledge is carefully guarded behind layers of initiation, the allure of the order continues to attract seekers from around the globe. Its use of modern technologies, such as a comprehensive website, online publications, and even social media engagements, signals a willingness to blend the old with the new, while retaining the mystery that has defined it for over a century. As historians and esoteric scholars continue to debate and examine its impact, one thing remains clear. The O.T.O has indelibly influenced both occult culture and modern spirituality. Whether one views it as a relic of the past or as a vibrant participant in the contemporary exploration of consciousness, the legacy of the Ordo Templi Orientis invites us to question, to explore, and ultimately to do what thou wilt. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the hidden corridors of occult history. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Ordo Templi Orientis, from its esoteric origins to its modern rebirth, be sure to like, subscribe and click that notification bell for more videos from History Unveiled. And as always, remember to do what thou wilt, for in the depths of mystery, your true will awaits.